I call it a bucket list, adventure to Brazil in 2009. My trip was inspired by Ralph and Helen Bishop, Jan Ferguson's mom and dad. Jan, don't you want to see this? Okay, so this is dedicated to the memory of Ralph and Helen Smith. Their trip to Brazil inspired the journey depicted in this program. And I took this trip with the mineral curator for the Los Angeles County Museum of Natural History, Tony Kampf, his wife, and 14 other folks. And this is Minas Gerais is I think the main mineral producing province in Brazil. And this gives you an idea of the route that we took. And so it's the first state in production of rare gems, topaz, aquamarine, emeralds, tourmaline, among other things. The second most populous state in Brazil at 18 million people, and this is in 2009. The third largest state in Brazil, and at 588,343 square kilometers, it is a little larger than France. 17 of us visited 11 mines, stayed in 6 different motels, hotels in 5 cities in 16 days. This is arriving, okay, I guess. This is arriving in Belo Horizonte, means beautiful horizon. I think that's a pretty neat name for a town. And this is one of the stores there. Next, here's the first day out walking around Belo Horizonte. Top left is Lago Santo, the Holy Lake. The second top right is a crown of thorns. I don't know if anybody knows Euphorbia milii, the crown of thorns, but usually they're like this big. And these are huge bushes of that plant. They often have red flowers on them. Lower left is the museum at the Botanical Garden, and that's I believe that's a big megatherium there. And then the next to that is a display, and I noticed that some of the minerals were misnamed. And so I said something to one of the curators, and I go, oh, the cleaning lady gets in there and messes things up, and nobody puts them back together. And then the next, in the lower right-hand corner, that's an amazing 40-year project that a man did depicting the life of Christ. It actually moves, and it was just an amazing. You can see the lady right down in the lower left for scale on that thing. It was pretty amazing to me. Also in Belo Horizonte, there's some native crafts in the upper left. In the middle those are, believe it or not, those are bougainvilleas, but huge. They're like bougainvillea trees. And then upper right is lunch with free cachaça. Who knows what cachaça is? It's the national beverage of Brazil, and it's fermented sugar cane. We will go to a cachaça factory later on, but that made for a pretty nice lunch. Lower left, you can see graffiti. I call it graffiti plain and fancy, and so it's hard to tell some of these towns from our towns with the graffiti painted on them. And then lower right is the restaurant that we had our lunch at. And this is from Belo Horizonte to Ouro Preto. You can see upper left is one of the dealers' collections. In the upper middle is typical street scene there. And upper right is at one of the dealers' one of the dealers' houses with some of the gems that they had for sale. Lower left is at the Hotel Grande. designed by Oscar Niemeyer in the 60s, and he's one of the most famous architects in Brazil. This is the Capão mine. I just thought that's kind of interesting name, Capão. And you can see that in the down there with all the people holding the sign up, that's our group. And we're standing looking forward to going into the Imperial Topaz mine. And you can see a couple of examples of the Imperial Topaz that I came home with. And I hope you noticed the big quartz crystal that I actually found at the mine with two broken off Imperial topazes in it, and I recreated one of the topazes with a crystal, another crystal I found there. So this is sort of what the mine looks like, and in the middle you can see the lower right you can see the sorting shed, and then a close up in the extreme lower right of the sorting. So the material gets sifted. It comes on the conveyor belt. The girl picks all the good stuff out. That'd be a nice job. I might take one of those. And that's how they acquire their stock of Imperial Topaz. This is the town of Rodrigo Silva, and back to Ouro Preto. And I thought it was interesting to see the gardens. In the upper right-hand corner is one of the gardens in one of the houses. Lower left is the entrance to our hotel, and in the middle lower left is about $7,000 a piece for those birds that were made from gemstones. But this is 2009, so heaven only knows what the prices are for those things now. But they were absolutely beautiful. And then the picture in the lower right, I thought that was really interesting because if you didn't know, if you just woke up and didn't know where you were and you walked out, it'd be like kind of like a typical scene with the students, and they look like American students dressed up and going in groups to school. So I really enjoyed that. And this contains a couple of my favorite pictures of the journey. This is in the town of Ouro Preto. The upper left is a town square. In the middle and in the right is the soapstone market. And you might notice a little flash of red in the picture in the upper middle, and we're going to get to her in a little bit. But I think that the picture in the upper right is one of the neatest pictures that I took, because this newlywed couple, she's still wearing a wedding dress, they're in the soapstone market, and they're looking at statues of lovers. And that really touched my heart. And then I saw that little flash of red. I looked a little bit closer and said, dude, that looks like the girl from Ipanema. How many people know that song? How many people want to hear me sing it? Anyhow, so I talked to my bus driver, and so he had a word with her, and so I got my picture taken next to Jorango de Ipanema, was how you say it in Portuguese, or sort of how you say it in Portuguese. The girl from Ipanema. So that was kind of fun. And then in the middle on the bottom, that's some of the soapstone carvings that they had in the market. And then in the lower right, that's the lady that's working on the soapstone carvings. This is the Antonio Ferrara gold mine. We didn't get too close to that pile, but it's just they had a tramway. If you can see in the upper right-hand corner, we're waiting for the tram to come. And I asked a bus driver why he wasn't getting on the train. He goes, no, that's all right, I'll wait here. So we got on the tram, and it went pretty steeply down into the heart of this mine. And that shows us down in the mine looking around, and then there's a little, I don't know what you call it, a little shrine that they have erected, the miners erected down in the mine. I guess it's to protect the miners from bad things that can happen down there. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And this is Edinburgh. I love when we went to Edinburgh, we stopped at a restaurant and I walked into the restroom, and this is the picture that I saw in the upper right. And those are the ladies, are like, one lady has a ruler and the other one's going like this, and another one of the ladies saying something about a little bird. And so it showed me that they have some pretty good sense of humor down there in Brazil. And then the other pictures are down in the mine. It's an emerald mine, so we didn't get to go looking for emeralds there either, but it was fun to watch the process. And they had a little shed there where they sorted the emeralds similar to the way they did it at the topaz mine. And this is the town of Governor Valadares. And on the way, we saw Inselbergs near Itapinga. James, you want to tell us what Inselberg is? So it's like granite starts from magma inside the earth, and then it gradually rises to the surface, and eventually it's disclosed by erosion. And so there's a lot of Inselbergs near Itapinga, and in those Inselbergs sometimes you find pegmatites, which are where the material is allowed to cool slowly and larger crystals are able to form. And you'll see some of those in the next slide. But while we were there, we went to a churrascaria where they come around with a sword with a bunch of meat on it, and they say, "What do you want?" And so they just kind of peel it off onto your plate. And that was a fun experience. And then the other one, lower left, is some of the minerals on the shelf in one of the dealers' homes. And look at the quartz. You can see the quartz in the middle picture in the bottom row. Next, in Governor Valadares, one of the places we went, they had a pocket of minerals, including aquamarine and others. I don't remember all the ones that were in there, but you can see the scale on the pocket with Bert, and that pocket went for $250,000, or at least that was the price on it. Nobody in our group bought it, but. And also in Governor Valadares, we went to the home of what was his name? Was Federico. And he owned a mine, and you can see the lady in the upper middle standing next to an individual quartz crystal. And then on the left is one of the workers is faceting the old-fashioned way with a spinning plate, and not the fancy stuff that we have now. And another picture of Federico down in the lower left with some of his quartz crystals. And in the middle and the bottom, how many people will go down that ladder to get into the mine to find some quartz crystals? Yeah, not me either. And then the bust, it shows the bust in the lower right with more bougainvillea. I thought the bougainvillea was just beautiful down there. And this is the town of Governor Valadares, where we visited another one of the dealers. And if you can see in the picture in the upper right, on the top shelf, there's a beautiful garnet crane, or a crane that was carved out of garnet. That's some pretty big garnet, and that went for $900 back in 2009. More birds in the lower left. In the middle, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but I hadn't seen that before. The wraparound earrings that start in the front and go all the way around to the back, and then they I guess you had another thing that hang down, but that was interesting. Moving on to This is RSYE, and there was a porcelain mine there. So they mined feldspar to grind it up to make porcelain. And in the middle of that shows me next to an individual topaz crystal that occurred in the pegmatite with the feldspar. And I don't think I'd ever seen a tourmaline crystal that big, an individual tourmaline crystal that big before. And then to the right of that picture is the whole ceiling in one location was a mass of black tourmaline crystals, also called schorl. Lower left is I can't pronounce it very well, Jequitinhonha River, downstream from Diamantina. So it's possible that there were diamonds in that river, but we didn't get the opportunity to look for any. Upper right is a picture of the Paris Motel where we stayed. And just below that, seated is Peter Whitehead, who was the Australian Cabochon champion at that time. I don't know how it worked out that we were there at the same time, but that was pretty fun. And then in the bottom right is a counter in one of the restaurants we went to, a countertop that's made out of graphic granite. And this is near RSYE, a cachaça factory that we went to, where you can see them juicing the cachaça, and I believe the juicing the sugar cane that they turn into cachaça. And it's like I don't know if people have seen pictures of sugar cane. It kind of looks like bamboo, only it's softer, and they squeeze the juice out of it, they distill it, they ferment it, and then we had some samples there. That was pretty fun too. And then on the bottom is the Morro Redondo tourmaline mine, and you can see where they've excavated some of the tourmalines out of pockets in the pegmatite. And then on the lower right is a couple pictures of a granite quarry, and in that one you could see how they harvested the granite by drilling a bunch of holes, and then eventually they can break the big chunks off and saw it up. One of my better days there was we went to the Marambaya Valley, which is probably the most famous location in the world for aquamarine crystals. And the name of the owner is Orlando Tavares. And in the picture in the middle, you can see the waterfall and the girl standing next to it. And I said, well, she looks interesting. So I went down and started talking to her. And she was a mine owner's daughter. And she was going to school, I want to say in New York or something like that. And we had a nice chat, and then I went back, and when they picked people to excavate a little bit on the alluvial material that they have, you can see in the lower right, I got picked first. I go, lucky me. So I was digging through it, and I found, I think I found a total of 9 small aquamarine crystals, and you can see some of them on my display over there. And then I found this big one, and when we went in the next day or so, we went into the owner's office in town. He offered it to me for $200. I said, that's all right, I think I'm good. But before we left, they offered me the bag of 9 small aquamarine parts of crystals for $90. I said, wow, that's a little steep. The bus driver said, no, not the bus driver, Tony, who was leading the trip, said, go ahead and buy it. You can sell them for $15 a piece on the bus. So I got on the bus, and I offered them to the people on the bus. Nobody wanted any. So Wayne got stuck holding the bag. But the good news is that when I got back home, I looked up Ron Campbell, who was one of our dealers and a faceter, and he said that he would, he told me how to choose stones to be faceted. He said, you polish the top off, and you look and you find the clearest one. So I picked two, and I gave them to him to be faceted, and he faceted them. And this is the biggest one. This is a 4.5 carat aquamarine. And Ron said at that time that he did it in 2009, that the value was about $150 a carat. So I feel like I came out pretty well in that deal. Moving on. And this is, it's unfortunate that it didn't show up well in this picture, but that cloud, when we drove past it, it had rainbows in it. I'd never seen a rainbow cloud before, and it was just beautiful. And then you see a picture of the hotel we stayed in, the capital of stones, Capital de Piedras. And then the layout that we had for buffet, so I ate pretty good on the trip, I would say. And then if you look real close, I think, is this one? Maybe it's the next one. So we're upstairs. This is some of the pictures around the hotel that we stayed in, and the flowers in the lower right-hand corner are spider lilies. They were really pretty in person. I think I might be missing some notes in here, but if you in the picture on the lower left, as we were looking down from one of the dealer's offices, and I could be out of sequence on this, there was a a sloth, a little sloth crawling through the tree canopy there, and that was pretty amazing. So here we are in Teflotoni, and in the middle, on the bottom, you can see the Tavares family, handsome family, and then he's the one who offered me the aquamarine crystal for $200, and I had to say no. I'm sorry. Upper left is where the picture of the sloth up in the top of the tree. You could come up and see it if you want to, Salad.
Thank you. Interrupt your program.
And then right in the middle, the next picture of that little house, that was pretty amazing. So I guess they don't have eminent domain in Brazil or something like that, but that little house is surrounded by these big tall skyscrapers, and I can imagine some lady sitting on a porch with a shotgun, daring people to come and try to take it away from her. But anyhow, and then in the middle is one of the prettiest necklaces that I saw. So that's aquamarine and rose quartz, I believe. I have some rose quartz crystals, which is fairly rare, on my display over there as well. And that's fun to see. And then moving on, I guess the reason we went to Teflotoni was because they had the gem fair there, and it just happened to be timed with our visit. So we got to go to the big gem fair in Teflotoni, and there was a lot of pretty neat stuff there. The second one on the top, second from the left, those are about 3-inch spheres of perfectly clear asteroided rose quartz. How many people have ever seen asteroided rose quartz with a star? So it's I have some at home, and it's pretty amazing. It has a star that looks just like a sapphire, or pretty close to a sapphire in the middle of it when you orient it properly. And then the next is dendritic quartz, and I have some dendritic quartz over there that is pretty cool. And then Paraiba tourmaline, which is a multicolored tourmaline. And it's too bad the pictures aren't, you can't like make them bigger, because in the lower right-hand corner, you can see some of the crafts that the lady was making out of animals that she was making out of stone. And so we're getting close to the end. For our final night in Brazil, we got to go to Hassam's, who is one of our dealers, and you can see Some of the, on the two pictures on the right side are from Hassam's business in downtown Teflo, and then the case was some of the material that he was selling. Then the rest of them are dinner at his house, and I thought this was the second from the left on the top was a cute little scene from like a country home kitchen. And then I was inspired by his display case in the lower right-hand corner. And eventually, or ultimately last year, I finally made one for myself. A lady from the Santa Lucia Club gave me a collection of seashells from Samoa. So I titled that Samoa Shells. And I told her I was going to try to make a display case to hold the shells, and so that's what it was modeled after. And then in the lower, I wish I could remember their names, but the picture of me in the lower, the two pictures in the bottom middle, that's me and some friends from, some acquaintances that were on the trip from Pasadena, California. And then the second one is a little statue of a native, like they had in the first picture when we flew into Bello. They had that in something like that in that shop at the Bello airport. Moving on, I think this is. We went back to Bello and stayed for a night in this pretty cool hotel that had orchids growing wild on the palm trees, and a nice buffet, and then a little family waiting for the bus. And this is our last day in Brazil. We flew into Sao Paulo, and you can see that it kind of looks a little smoggy and like a lot of houses and stuff like that. I enjoyed the picture of the two little sisters there. And then I think the prettiest necklace I saw the whole time I was there was the second from the left on the bottom, and that, I believe, those are all sapphires, and it illustrates the color range that the mineral sapphire can take, gem sapphire. And then the last slide in the lower right is us flying into Los Angeles. And this is August of 2009, and I believe that they had fires going up in the foothills. And I said, what a welcome. And that's the end of the trip. Does anybody have any questions?